You guys really seem to like this series, so it's time for the pros and cons of Pathfinder 2e classes Part 3. Let's dive in. So for this video, I'm going to start with the Gunslinger class from Guns and Gears. Some gunslingers can take huge advantage of cover, especially the sniper gunslinger. Gunslingers can also reduce or even ignore the cover of enemies. They are also one of the few martials that can do elemental damage if you take the right feats. Gunslingers also make great debuffers, but in a different way than fighters. For example, the Called Shot feat allows you to choose how you debuff an enemy, and gunslingers are just as accurate as fighters are. But they only get that accuracy with weapons that require a reload action, basically firearms and crossbows. They will never be as good with melee weapons as other martials. And some gunslinger subclasses do want to use melee weapons. And just like fighters, you're going to have a low will save. And now we come to another class from Guns and Gears, the Inventor. Inventors are pretty versatile. They can be weapon-based, they can be armor-based, and they can even be companion-based. They also have abilities that other classes that specialize in one of those wish they had. They are also very good at buffing ally damage. And just like gunslingers, they're one of the few classes that can do multiple types of elemental damage as a martial. They are also the only class in the game that can change their subclass daily at high levels. But they have a low reflex save. And they will never have as much armor class as a champion or as much of an attack bonus as a gunslinger or a fighter. Now let's talk about a class that isn't used as much as it should be. The Investigator. Investigators are great for mystery campaigns because of their innate ability to recall knowledge. And thanks to the devise a stratagem ability, they can know ahead of time whether a strike will hit or not. They can also treat skills as one rank higher for the purposes of what actions they can use. And at high levels, they have a feat that allows them to make recall knowledge checks, not secret checks. But they will never be as versatile with skills as a rogue. Also, they have low fortitude saving throws, and they need dexterity and intelligence, so they will never do as much damage as other martials. Next up is the Magus from Secrets of Magic. Magi can do massive damage if you use them correctly. They can also do magical damage even without magical weapons. And Magi are intelligence-based, so they can be good at recall knowledge. And of course, they do have the arcane list, making them great at hitting enemy weaknesses. But the ability that allows them to do massive damage requires 2 actions and a recharge action. They also have pretty low hit points for a martial character. And they've got less spells than other casters, thanks to their bounded spellcasting. They also have very few low-level spell slots at high levels. And finally, Charisma is the only stat you can really dump as a Magus, meaning your intimidation will not be good. Okay, Oracle is next. Oracles have the Divine List, which is the second best teamwork spell list in the game, in my opinion. And Life Oracles are the best healers in the entire game. And Oracles are Charisma-based, making them great faces of the party. But like most spellcasters, you're going to have low defenses if you play an Oracle. Oracles are also the most complicated class in the entire game. One Oracle subclass takes up an entire page of the Advanced Player's Guide. Yes, they are that complicated. Also, your curse is going to make it more difficult to work with your party. Honestly, unless you're wanting to be a Life Oracle and the best healer in the game, then you're almost always better off playing a Divine List Sorcerer. Because Sorcerers are more powerful and way less complicated. The Psychic from Dark Archive is one of the newer classes. They can be Charisma or Intelligence based, which means they can be great scholars or faces of the party. They also do have the Occult List, the best teamwork spell list in the game. What makes Psychics unique is they can do things with cantrips that other casters cannot. They're also pretty versatile, but they're not as versatile as some other casters. For disadvantages, they rely heavily on their focus points. They also have limited spell slots when compared to other casters. You also do have to be careful about when you're activating certain effects, because psychics can stupefy themselves if they're not careful. And stupefied is one of the worst conditions a spellcaster can have. They're also a pretty complicated class, as there is a lot to keep track of. And now we come to the other class from Secrets of Magic, the Summoner. Being a Summoner technically allows you to be a spellcaster and a martial at the exact same time. Also, just like sorcerers, they can have any spell list in the game. And because of the act together action, you can technically have 4 or even 5 actions on your turn without the limitations of a minion or needing the haste spell. Summoners also have good HP and can take on multiple different roles. But Summoners are only a little behind Wizard when it comes to complicated subclasses. Also, other than HP, you're going to have low stats that you have to share with your Eidolon. You will also have limited spell slots compared to other casters. Summoners also rely heavily on their Eidolon. And now we come to one of my other favorite classes, the Swashbuckler. Swashbucklers can fulfill the roles of both fighters and rogues, and they have great reflex saves as well as decent other saves. They have great starting stats other than some of its defenses. They can also do decent damage and have great subclasses. But they need panache and the ability to move around a lot to be effective, which means they can't attack as much as something like a fighter. Also, as I've said before, some of their defenses are rather low. Now for the other most recent class that we got in Dark Archive, the Thaumaturge. Thaumaturges are almost as versatile as alchemists are, just in a different way. They can also hit enemy weaknesses very easily. Also, they can be a face and a striker because they use their charisma for their attack rolls. They can also create and use any scroll in the game, even though they're not spellcasters, if they take the right feats. But Thaumaturges will never do as much damage as other martials against creatures that don't have weaknesses. Also, because they require implements, their action economy isn't great. And finally, the Thaumaturge is in the top 5 most complicated classes to play in Pathfinder 2e. And now we finally come to the last class that you can play as in Pathfinder 2e as of right now, the Witch. Witches are great at sustained spells, which ironically makes them better at summon spells than the Summoner class. They can also get specific familiars very easily. And they're another class in the game that can have any spell list that you want. Witches can also fulfill nearly any role that a spellcaster can fulfill in a party. They also have a rather large amount of skills, thanks to their high intelligence. But where the Witch really shines is in their focus spells, known as hexes. They have access to some of the best focus spells in the game. But, like most spellcasters, they can't wear armor, meaning they have low defenses. They also can't use a whole lot of weapons. And they're a prepared spellcaster, making them a little harder to play than something like a sorcerer. And that is the pros and cons of every non-core class in Pathfinder 2e. If you want to check out parts 1 and 2 of this series, you can check those out right here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.